Welcome to this Oktane online fireside chat, where together with Anthesis, we'll discuss identity's role in helping you achieve your ESG goals. My name is Ian Lowe, and I lead our Europe, Middle East, and Africa Solutions Marketing teams. Let's get to know the panelists. Hi, Alison. Tell me a bit about you.
Thank you, Ian. I'm Okta's first Director of Environmental, Social, and Governance, ESG, and Sustainability. I work very closely with the Anthesis team. My team at Okta is responsible for our climate, human rights, and our ESG disclosures programs.
It's really great that we have a team dedicated to building a strong foundation in ESG and helping our customers to see value in connecting with us. So Charlotte and Richard, can you tell us a bit about Anthesis and yourselves?
Hi there, thanks so much. I'm Charlotte Challis. I'm a principal carbon consultant working for Anthesis from our Bristol office in the UK. I've been at Anthesis for 2 years, but I've been working in the carbon reduction space for the last 17 years. I'm currently focused on internal carbon pricing, but my experience spans all sorts of carbon-related topics, including carbon management, greenhouse gas reporting, life cycle assessment, process optimization systems. But I'm really, really pleased to be back talking at an Okta event. Your Forum 22 event this year was a great experience. And this time I'm back with my colleague Richard, who can tell you more about Anthesis as well as himself.
Thanks, Charlotte, and thank you very much for having us. So I'm the director of our digital business. I'm responsible for our portfolio of software as a service products. Our flagship product is a greenhouse gas inventory tool and an action planning product called Route Zero. I've worked in the sustainable technology industry for 15 years, in-house in consultancy and leadership. In terms of Anthesis, we're now 1,100 people split across 42 countries. We've got a multi-expert team who design and deploy solutions that grow productive, resilient organizations, ecosystems, cities, communities, and people. 18% of Fortune 500 companies work with us, more than half of the Dow 30, and 12% of the companies taking SBTI actions. So this topic is incredibly important and really in our wheelhouse.
As we know, identity is the core of Okta's business. Every person that uses the internet has a digital identity. We all use our digital identity every day to access email and engage with brands such as retail, banks, education, or healthcare providers, or access the tools and technologies that we need to do our best work from anywhere. In order to deliver on Okta's mission of enabling everyone to safely use any technology, we need to create a world where everyone feels their individual identities are safe and belong to them. So what is identity's role in helping us and our customers achieve our ESG goals? Did you know that identity, traceability, and accountability is already in sustainability processes? So Alison, can you tell us a bit more about this?
Yes, identity is an important part of how we approach our ESG work. To create a world where people feel their identities are safe, online and off, how we build our company and the impact we have for our customers and communities is just as important as what we build. At Okta, our business is built on empowering people with safe and secure identities now and into the future, and respecting privacy as a fundamental human right. Accountability is also a key part of our approach. We have made 2 ambitious public climate commitments. First, to 100% renewable electricity for our global offices, remote workforce, and cloud services. This is exciting because as we grow, our customers will continue to be supported by a more sustainable platform. Our second commitment is to science-based targets, SBTs, for absolute emissions reductions for business travel and our offices, and a target that our vendors will set their own targets. This enables us to help our customers achieve your climate targets. Many of our customers have set their own targets, which often include asking their vendors, like Okta, to set and achieve emissions reductions targets. We are accountable to trace and report on our progress annually. We conduct an annual greenhouse gas inventory, we submit to the Carbon Disclosure Project, CDP, climate survey, and we publish an annual ESG fact sheet. We are also accountable for reducing our emissions. Our climate strategy has 4 pillars: reduce consumption, electrify from natural gas to electricity in our buildings, purchase renewable electricity, and engage our vendors. Over 90% of our emissions come from our value chain. We also hold ourselves accountable through our robust governance process, which includes executive and board oversight. Richard, can you please tell us a bit more about your identity and sustainability work, including greenhouse gas inventories?
Absolutely. And it's a really pertinent question because the scrutiny that's growing on organizations who have to measure their impact and from regulators and stakeholders is growing hugely. And that's required practitioners like ourselves to mature very rapidly to achieve scrutiny levels equivalent to those experienced previously in finance and audit. So when people make declarations around greenhouse gas inventory, they've got to be traceable, auditable, repeatable, and that accountability process is absolutely crucial. So the role for identity in ensuring that, given now these declarations have legal weight, is huge. The flip side of that is supply chains that are continuously, ask for information to support greenhouse gas inventories are experiencing fatigue from a growing number of similar and reformulated data requests. And the role of identity in potentially helping to deduplicate data collection exercise, making efficiencies and reducing those GHG data impacts is significant. We view a very strong role for identity in helping make that process more efficient as well as more accountable.
Thanks, Alison. Thanks, Richard. Thanks, Charlotte. Let's explore this relationship between identity and the environment a little more. In our upcoming digital identity report, it revealed that EMEA customers, Europe, Middle East, and Africa consumers are increasingly aware of the data pollution of their multiplying online identities and of the risks that entails. But with most consumers having between 10 to 20 apps on their phones and a corresponding number of logins and passwords, it's hard to ignore the impact this rising level of digital transactions is going to have on energy usage. For example, Ireland's Central Statistics Office recently published figures that show that data centers, 14%, are now consuming more metered electricity than all of Ireland's rural homes put together, 12%. Irgrid, Ireland's electricity grid operator, has said that this could rise to 30% by 2030. As a business, it's really something that we at Okta are conscious of and are passionate about, working with our customers, partners, and community to ensure identity is secure, efficient, and doesn't have a negative impact on our environment. So how can you use identity and sustainability to reduce data pollution and energy emissions? To tackle this, we need to look across both customer and workforce use cases. So Charlotte, from a consumer or customer perspective, and based on discussions with your own customers, what are you seeing and what are your thoughts?
Yeah, from our point of view, excess and unnecessary data contributes to the climate crisis. Data use generates emissions, in particular from storage of that data. So when we need to store data, be it on work in progress files and versions of those files, family photos, customer transactions, infrastructure is required to support that storage. And I think it can be harder to make the mental link. We don't have paper copies of those files. We don't have printed versions of the photos. Maybe we don't have a logbook on the shelf containing transactions. These things are virtual with no physical weight. And we might talk about them being stored in the cloud, which all sounds marvelously ethereal, but the cloud requires physical infrastructure. And that's rooms with servers, components, racks constructed from steel, copper, fiberglass, resins, various rare metals, silicon, and so on. And so there are embodied emissions that come from manufacturing and installing these things. And furthermore, these servers require power and are generating heat that requires cooling. So this in-use phase, the power and cooling, is typically the biggest impact, sort of following a 80-20 kind of rule. According to the UN EP DTU Partnership, which is a UN capacity building initiative, a meta-analysis of research shows ICT's share of global emissions in 2020 was between 2% and 6% of the global total. And looking at how that ICT category breaks down, data centers make up about 45% of that impact. And then to put that in context, ATAG, the Air Transport Action Group, which is made up of representatives from the airline industry, including Airbus and Boeing, estimates the impact from aviation at just over 2% of global emissions. So we're talking about something which is, rivaling aviation for impact, and something that's really significant.
Thanks for that, Charlotte. So from the above, is it possible to quantify the individual impacts?
pinning down numbers to our individual actions can be frustratingly difficult. There's quite a lot of variation in the CO2 impact from different cloud providers and server locations. This is due to things like different grid factors, use of renewables, use and reuse of materials, variation in the data required, never mind our assumptions about how long data is stored for. There's a really fun book by Mike Berners-Lee, which is called How Bad Are Bananas? And in it, he estimates an email having a footprint of 4 grams of CO2, with a large attachment being 50 grams. And over a year for an individual, that could add up to about 135 kilograms of CO2. It's about 200 miles in a family car. And these estimates are widely quoted. You'll see them all over the internet, but they're now 10 years old. And what we do know is energy demand per gigabyte or per terabyte has been reducing. Data from Statistica shows that between 2015 and 2022, the terawatt-hour electricity demand from data centres has actually decreased from 198 terawatt hours in 2017 to 191 terawatt hours in 2021. And that's while we're still having a massive increase in storage requirement. So, that's a great trend, but even with the uncertainty, then taking that down to an individual level, we can look at individual cloud providers to understand their carbon footprint via life cycle analysis, though many don't make those results public. And that's that is some of the work that we will help and support providers with. But we also have much more certainty over the overall global impacts, and we can be sure that efficiency in the use of data and storage is a really powerful part of the picture, and needs to be at the front line of decarbonisation of the industry. Because there's a direct relationship between how much data we need to store and its carbon impact, and whether that storage is getting more efficient or not. We can draw the link that if we reduce the gigabytes or terabytes of storage, we reduce carbon impacts. So going back to our earlier examples, when we end up with multiple versions of a report saved to multiple laptops that are all backed up, where we've got 15 copies of a picture we were trying to take of our kid with only 3 of them being in focus, or we've got customer transactions where information gets duplicated every time they make a purchase, then we're generating what's called dark data, and that gives us no utility but has a considerable and unseen and unappreciated environmental impact.
Maybe just building on that a little bit, Charlotte, kind of this idea that not all data centers are created equal, and some have a very high impact due to being inefficient or poorly configured or kind of not well cooled. And we've done quite a lot of work on this phenomenon called zombie servers, where there is a ridiculously high kind of proportion of server capacity that's switched on but not being utilized for anything, having a big impact. So these are big sources of emissions, but effective, productive utility of these big sources of emissions are crucial. Now, it should be remembered that data centers and cloud services can make traditional industries more sustainable by replacing physical infrastructure or travel. But we shouldn't underestimate the impact of adding on more capacity, particularly if it's not well deployed, or other issues like security. So those are some of the things that we've been spending quite a lot of time thinking about with our clients in recent years.
Yeah, dark data, zombie servers, it all sounds really scary. That's really great, Richard and Charlotte. And it's getting me thinking. Security is another aspect. Having to continuously authenticate increases the consumption and friction for users. So optimizing their experience using SSO, for example, or single sign-on, could also help reduce the impact, not just for our customers and their customers, but also for the workforce. So Alison, can you talk a bit about what we've been doing here at Okta?
Yes, given hybrid work, which we call dynamic work, we can work from an office or remotely, which can reduce our emissions by reducing office square footage per employee and reducing employee commute. We actually conducted a study with Anthesis to better understand these impacts. We also leverage anonymous data to understand office utilization trends, and we right-size and design our office spaces accordingly. We invest in energy efficiency with both LEED Silver and WELL Silver building certifications. And As Ian said, we enable our customers with the same flexibility, given Okta enables their workforce to safely leverage the tools they need from anywhere.
Absolutely, Alison. It's really applicable. There are lots of organisations who are looking at how to retain and build on benefits of more remote and hybrid working that got kick-started during lockdowns.
Yeah, and every business today is really looking to optimize every experience, whether it's for their workforce or their many customer channels. This optimization does not have to be a big bang. We need to think big, but really start small. Or I like to use, I'm a bit of a runner, so you can use the same principles when training for mountain and ultra running. You can't just go out and run 50 miles. You can try, but you're probably going to fail. Instead, you start with shorter runs, slowly increasing frequency and increasing length. And then you think about doing 100 things 1% better. Changes to your gait, to your clothing, to training, maybe your nutrition. Soon these tiny improvements compound and you start to notice significant improvements in your performance. It's no different when it comes to reducing your environmental impact. Okta has shown that you can potentially reduce greenhouse gas emissions by taking small, strategic decisions about how and where your organization works. We've also seen this with our customers. A building society in the UK incrementally reduced its environmental impact by replacing its legacy hardware token-based solution with Okta's adaptive multi-factor authentication. The legacy hardware tokens were constantly needing replacement and required multiple weekly shipments, which had a large carbon footprint. Using our Workforce Identity Cloud to take a modern approach to your workforce experience, you enable more flexible, energy-efficient models of working that are secure and rooted in identity-first, zero-trust security. This think big, start small approach can also be applied to making customer experiences more energy efficient. As consumers, we all hate having to enter excessive amounts of data when signing up for a new app or service. Using Okta's Customer Identity Cloud, you can optimize your customer experiences, reducing the amount of data that you ask your customer to provide by enabling swift adoption of social logins, for example, or by reducing the number of fraudulent accounts that are created using bot protection. While the savings and processing power from these optimizations will seem small in isolation, the overall efficiency gains start to stack up when you consider how many customer accounts you have. Taking a strategic and deliberate approach to every digital experience, one that's identity first, you can potentially reduce your environmental impact. Thank you so much for your time, Alison, Charlotte, and Richard. And thanks to the audience for listening. It's been a great discussion, and I'm looking forward to continuing it with you and seeing the progress of identity's role in helping you all achieve your environmental, social, and governance goals.